If you've ever been the family joke, hit that like button and subscribe, because this story is one you don't want to miss. I'm Sarah Chin, and 3 years ago, I got married without telling my parents. Not because I forgot to invite them, but because for 28 years, they made it clear I wasn't important enough to be included in their lives. So, on the most important day of my life, I returned the favor. Let me explain how this all began. I grew up in Westchester, New York, in a house that looked flawless from the outside. My dad, Richard Chin, was an insurance broker with moderate success. My mom, Patricia, sold luxury condos. Together, they earned maybe $300,000 a year, enough to live comfortably, enough to show off, and enough to spoil my older sister, Madison, rotten. Madison was their golden child. 3 years older, blonde highlights that cost hundreds every few weeks, a designer-filled wardrobe, and a brand new Audi for her sweet 16. She was popular, and in my parents' eyes, destined for greatness. She would marry wealthy, climb social ladders, and make them proud. Me? I was the backup plan, the quiet, smart one who could earn scholarships so they wouldn't have to pay for college, the one who should feel grateful for whatever scraps of attention they tossed my way. At 14, I started teaching myself coding. Nights were spent in my room, laptop on my knees, learning Python, JavaScript, and SQL. My parents assumed I was doing homework. Madison called me a nerd. Nobody asked what I was actually building. At 16, I launched my first app, a scheduling tool for small businesses. It wasn't groundbreaking, but it worked. I sold it for $12,000 to a local startup, kept it a secret, and opened a bank account my parents didn't know about. The pattern was clear. Family dinners where Madison monopolized conversation. Christmases where she got diamonds and I got a $50 gift card. My high school graduation, abandoned early because Madison had a party. Mom would tell me, "She's more social than you. You don't need all the attention." What I understood. I was only useful when they needed something, babysitting, tutoring Madison, or a scapegoat, but invisible when it came to love, support, or celebration. I got into MIT on a full scholarship. Their response? At least we won't have to pay for it. They spent my graduation party talking about Madison's boyfriend, whose dad owned car dealerships. College changed everything. I met people who cared about ideas, innovation, and creation. I met Professor Sarah Williams, my mentor. I met David Park, my future business partner. And I met James, who would become my husband. By my junior year, I was building not just skills but a business. David and I launched TechFlow Solutions, an AI-powered project management platform for creative agencies. From a dorm room to a small co-working space, then a proper office, we grew steadily. By senior year, our first big client paid $50,000. By graduation, TechFlow pulled in $400,000 annually. My parents attended my MIT graduation but spent it glued to their phones. Madison skipped it entirely for a spa weekend. At dinner afterward, Dad asked what I'd do next. I said, "I'm running my company full-time." Mom laughed. "Cute, honey. But when will you get a real job? Computers can't be forever." I was 22, my company valued at $2.3 million. I said nothing. My strategy became silence, stop proving myself to them, stop seeking their approval, build my empire quietly. 6 years later, TechFlow was massive. National clients, enterprise contracts, 60 employees, offices in Boston, New York, and San Francisco. By 26, TechFlow was worth $47 million. I held 62% equity. My net worth? Over $29 million. I had a Brooklyn penthouse, a house in the Berkshires, investments in real estate and tech, drove a modest Tesla, and lived comfortably, but quietly. My parents still thought I was freelancing, making maybe $60,000. Mom's helpful calls suggested real estate licenses or IT jobs through Madison's husband. I politely thanked her and hung up. Madison married at 25. A $150,000 wedding they funded. I was invited as a bridesmaid, but had to pay for my dress, flight, hotel, bachelorette contribution, and no plus one. James, my boyfriend of 2 years, had never met my family. I explained everything, how they ignored me and favored Madison. I debated skipping the wedding. I went, smiled, took family photos, but excused myself during the father-daughter dance to cry alone in the bathroom stall. James found me, held my hand, said nothing. 6 months later, James proposed on Martha's Vineyard at sunset with a custom platinum and sapphire ring. I said yes immediately. That night, I called my parents. Mom's response? Nice, honey. I'm on my way to help Madison pick nursery furniture. Can I call you back? She never did. James and I planned a wedding for the people who truly mattered. The Plaza, August 2022. 280 guests from MIT, our mentors, employees, and James' extended family. Budget? $8.2 million. Orchestra, Vera Wang and Tom Ford outfits, Kobe beef, Dom Perignon, ice sculptures, fireworks over Central Park. Forbes, TechCrunch, the media, all covered it. My parents weren't invited. Madison wasn't invited. Not a single member of my biological family got a save the date, a call, or a hint. I planned an $8.2 million wedding, and I didn't tell them a word. 2 weeks before, Mom called to see if I'd come to Madison's baby shower. I can't, I said. Doing what? She asked, annoyed. Just some work stuff, I replied. The wedding itself was everything I dreamed of. I walked down the aisle to Pachelbel's Canon, performed by a 20-piece string orchestra. James cried when he saw me. Professor Williams gave a speech about my journey from nervous freshman to co-founder. David shared the story of our first sale, made from my dorm room. During the reception, James's 93-year-old grandmother pulled me aside. I've been to a lot of weddings, she said, but this is the most beautiful I've ever seen. Your family must be so proud. I looked around at everyone who had supported me and smiled. My real family is here, I said. Photos of the wedding went viral, social media, Forbes, TechCrunch, even the New York Times. TechFlow CEO Sarah Chin's Plaza Extravaganza. My parents never saw a single image. They weren't on social media beyond Facebook, and I had restricted them for years. 3 years later, James and I bought a $4.3 million estate in Westchester, just 15 minutes from my parents. We had just opened a second office in Austin, and TechFlow was valued at $127 million. I had been featured in Forbes 30 Under 30, and now they wanted a follow-up. Michelle Santos, the reporter, wanted the full story, interviews with me, James, employees, and early investors. We sat in our home for 3 hours, recounting TechFlow's journey and that legendary wedding. That wedding, Michelle said, people still talk about it, the plaza, the guest list, the budget. It was like a tech fairy tale. It was perfect, I said. Everyone who mattered was there. And your family? She asked. I paused, then told her the truth, my years as the overlooked daughter, the golden child sister, and the parents who dismissed me. The wedding they didn't know existed because they were never invited. When the Forbes article published in October 2025, TechFlow's Sarah Chin builds an empire after being family disappointment, it went viral instantly. My parents only learned about it at Mom's book club. Karen, a friend, showed her the article on an iPad. Mom went pale. What are you talking about? She whispered, scrolling through images of me in Vera Wang, James and Tom Ford, the orchestra, the fireworks, and the 280 guests that included CEOs, investors, and MIT professors. This can't be real, she said. Calls started pouring in. Mom's voicemail. Sarah, call me immediately. I just saw an article about you getting married. This has to be a mistake. Dad called next. Sarah, your mother is upset. The article says you got married 3 years ago and didn't tell us. Is that true? Then Madison called. What the Sarah? Did you really get married and not invite us? I didn't respond. I let them sit with it. A few days later, they arrived at Techflow's New York office. Maya, the receptionist, told me, Sarah, there are 3 people claiming to be your family, Richard and Patricia Chin, and Madison Warren. Tell them I'm busy, I said. They insist on seeing you. I sighed. Send them up. Tom, my assistant, escorted them to our main conference room, floor-to-ceiling windows, a $50,000 table, original artwork, and our company logo etched in glass. I made them wait 20 minutes, partly for timing, partly for effect. When I entered, in an Armani suit and Louis Vuitton heels, they stared. Hello, I said, taking my seat at the head of the table. You have 15 minutes. Mom spoke first. Sarah, what is going on? We saw the Forbes article. You got married? Yes, Dad, 3 years ago. August 2022. The Plaza. 280 guests. Madison blushed. And we weren't invited? I looked at her. I invited my real family. Every person who mattered to me was there. You weren't. Mom demanded, how could you not tell us? I opened my laptop. Let's go through a timeline, I said, showing them every major milestone they ignored. 16, sold first app. You never asked. 18, got into MIT on scholarship. Your response, at least we won't have to pay. 22, graduated MIT, founded Techflow, $2.3 million valuation. You asked when I'd get a real job. 23, first $500,000 contract. You suggested real estate licensing. 25, Techflow valued at $47 million. Madison's wedding, you paid for it. I was a bridesmaid. 26, James proposed. You never called back. 28, my $8.2 million wedding at the Plaza. Forbes coverage. You didn't know. I closed the laptop. I didn't invite you because for 28 years, you made it clear I didn't matter, that Madison was the priority, that I was invisible when it came to celebration. Dad protested. That's not fair. I slid a folder across the table, texts, emails, voicemails, all documenting their dismissals. December 2019, I told you about a Fortune 500 client. Your reply, babysit Madison. June 2020, I emailed TechCrunch feature. No response. 2 days later, you sent 15 photos of Madison's haircut. September 2021, I called about buying a house. You interrupted with Madison's kitchen renovation. 23 examples in total. Mom was crying. We didn't realize it was this serious, she whispered. We thought you were just doing freelance work. You assumed because you never bothered to ask, I said. You never asked about Techflow, our team, our revenue. You just assumed I was struggling because that fit the story you wanted to believe. This company, I gestured around the office, has 67 employees. Last year, we made $43 million. We have offices in Boston, New York, San Francisco, and Austin. I personally am worth $82 million. And you didn't know any of it because you never cared to find out. The room went quiet. Madison broke the silence. So what? Now you're punishing us. Being vindictive. I looked at her steadily. I'm not punishing anyone. I'm simply living my life with people who actually value me. Sharing DNA doesn't give you entitlement to my life. Mom's voice trembled. We're your parents. We love you. You love the idea of me, I said. The version that's convenient for you, the scapegoat you can feel superior to. But you never loved the real me. You never bothered to meet her. Dad's voice shook. What do you want from us? Nothing, I said. I don't want anything. I don't need anything. That's what you've never understood. I'm not here for approval or acceptance. You showed up at my office uninvited. My assistant will see you out. Don't return without an appointment. I paused at the door. And if you're thinking about spinning this to the press, remember, my lawyers are better. Tom escorted them out. Later, Maya told me Mom had been sobbing in the elevator. I returned to work. By evening, my phone flooded with messages. Aunt Linda, Sarah, saw the Forbes article. Had no idea. Congrats. Cousin Mike, your wedding looked amazing. Sorry we missed it. Old family friend Janet, your parents are so proud of you. I didn't respond. They had years to acknowledge me. The messages that mattered came from my chosen family. Professor Williams, saw your parents tried to visit. You okay? David, say the word. I'll handle it. James, coming home early. Love you. The next morning, I woke to a 5,000-word email from Dad. Part apology, part justification, part plea, we made mistakes. We always loved you. Madison needed more attention. We're proud. Can we talk? I forwarded it to my therapist, Dr. Morrison. Her question cut straight to the point. What do you want, Sarah? Not what they want. Not what you think I should want. What do I truly want? I sat with it for 3 days. I realized I didn't want revenge. I didn't want them to suffer. But I also didn't want them in my life pretending everything was fine. I wrote back. Dad, I understand you're processing a lot. Here's what you need to know, this isn't about one article or one wedding. It's about 28 years of being treated as secondary to Madison, of having my achievements dismissed, of being valued only for what I could do, not for who I am. I'm not interested in dinner and pretending everything is fine. I'm not returning to the scapegoat golden child dynamic. If you want to repair this relationship, here's what needs to happen. Family therapy with a professional mediator, at least 6 months of sessions. Genuine accountability, real acknowledgement of specific actions and their impact. Sustained behavior change, not empty promises. Respect for boundaries. If you're willing to do this work, I'll consider it. If you want a quick fix to save face, then we're done. Let me know. Dad responded within an hour, we'll do whatever it takes. I didn't fully believe him, but I was willing to see if he meant it. Therapy began in November. Dr. Morrison referred us to Dr. Patricia Gonzalez, a specialist in narcissistic family dynamics and scapegoat recovery. The first session was rough. Madison refused to come. Mom cried through the hour. Dad kept justifying. Dr. Gonzalez shut them down, we're here to listen. Sarah, tell your parents how their actions affected you. For 90 minutes, I recounted specifics, being excluded from photos, missing my graduation dinner, sitting with strangers at Madison's wedding, having my engagement ignored. Mom kept saying, we didn't mean it that way. Dr. Gonzalez reminded her, impact matters more than intent. By session 4, progress emerged. Dad acknowledged incidents. Mom admitted favoritism. Madison still refused participation. She called, angry. You're making Mom and Dad go to therapy. They're devastated, I said. I'm giving them the chance I never had, to be heard, to exist as more than a background character in your life. Everything isn't about you, Sarah. Exactly. That's the problem. Nothing was ever about me until I made it about me. 3 months in, a breakthrough. Mom admitted. I was jealous. You were so capable. You didn't need us like Madison did. I told myself I was being practical, but really, I was scared. So I pushed you away first. Yes, I said. I'm sorry. It's not enough yet, but it's real. If you've ever had to step away to protect yourself, share your story in the comments. 6 months after the Forbes article, therapy and boundaries have transformed my family dynamic. We have monthly dinners. They ask about TechFlow, about James. They met him in January, respectful, curious, open. Madison and I don't speak. One email after therapy began. You're holding our childhood over their heads. Always dramatic. I didn't respond. Dr. Gonzalez says I owe her nothing. Some bridges are meant to burn. I'm doing this for me, not for them, to see if repair is possible. But I'm ready to walk away if it's not. I learned something vital walking down that aisle at the plaza: family isn't defined by blood. It's about who shows up, who believes in you, who celebrates your success. My real family was there at that wedding. Every person who mattered. And if my parents can't be part of that circle, based on respect, support, and love, they stay in the past. I'm worth $82 million. I run a company changing creative industries. I'm married to a man who adores me. I'm surrounded by people who have supported me from the start. I don't need my parents' validation, but I'm open to letting them earn a place in my life. This isn't weakness. It's the power of deciding what you truly deserve.